I call the town of Rome board meeting to order. We'll start with the roll call, and I mentioned that we do have one town board member who I think is participating by telephone, Jerry Reisinger. And Jerry, we're all wishing you the best and speedy recovery from that surgery. It's very strange not to have you here. We could have a roll call starting on my far left.
Iverson, Hogan here.
Johnson here.
Howard here.
Thank you. Item 3 on the agenda is certified posting of the meeting. Andy, could you do that, please?
I certify that on Friday, August 14th, 2020, the agenda for the Town of Rome Board meeting for Thursday, August 20th, 2020 was emailed to the Wisconsin Rapids Tribune at 2:56 p.m., posted at Rome Town Hall at 3:40 p.m., at Fritzl's Trading Post at 4:18 p.m., and at Nakusa Port Edward State Bank at 4:08 p.m.
Well, thank you. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item 5 on the agenda, could you all stand for the pledge, please? Oh, you're over there.
I couldn't find
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 6 is citizen comments. We have not had any formal requests, so I will dispense with reading the requirements for that section of the meeting. Moving on to no action contemplated except possible referral to future agenda. Item 7, information updates, meeting recaps, recent correspondence, current events, and announcements. Bob, do you have anything to report?
I have nothing at this time.
Thank you. The chair has nothing to report. John?
I'll just go over a couple of quick things here for the library. Our library director, Renee Haley, is here, but I'm going to steal her thunder tonight. The library is open now. The hours are 10 until 5 o'clock. There are no weekends. It's closed on weekends. Also, to let you know, there's a little challenge that the library is going to have going called Rome to Rome. And it's a mileage kind of a challenge. Each time that you read a book, you get mileage credit for that, and at the end of this contest, whoever has the most mileage will get prizes. This will be starting in September, so you can start early, practice up, read as much as you can. Thanks.
Jerry?
I have nothing, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Jamie, do you have anything from the administrator?
I would just mention that next week there is free COVID testing at the Lakes Area Christian Fellowship Church drive-through testing, and the information for that testing is located on the town's Facebook page and at Adams County's COVID-19 update page.
Thank you. Item 8 on the agenda, department and committee reports. Do we have anything that anybody would like to report beyond what we received in our packet, or including what we received in our packet?
Our work at Center Park is continuing. We have the well pump is operational now, and the sprinkling contractor's in there today, marking off where he's going to place the sprinkler heads. So we still hope to have grass growing, and the plan was to have it growing in August. It probably started in September now, but we're not too far off. Thanks.
John?
Every board meeting we get often we get a police report of all the different calls and responses and things that the police have done here. And it's always quite substantial. I think there were 199 total entries in this last one. And I was looking there to see if there's any specific place where there seems to be repeat stuff. And I noticed on this one there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different calls to the same place, and I was hoping the chief could be here to answer that.
Nothing, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, discuss some possible action on the following items. Item 9, discussion and action approval of the August 6, 2020 meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Motion second, any discussion, additions, corrections? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carried, thank you. Item 10, discussion and action. This is the 2019 audit review with Amber Danowski, who's the senior manager at Clifton Larson Allen LLP, and she is on the screen. And I will turn this over to our town administrator and our auditor.
I'll let Amber, you all have the report. Amber will tell you which page or which item of the report she's referring to as we go through the process. So I'll let her take it away.
Sounds good. Good evening. I'm going to primarily go through pages in the bound documents this year. So please let me know if you have any questions on what I'm in particular referencing. If you turn just past the table of contents to page 1, this is the audit opinion itself. The 2-page letter goes through, and 3-page letter goes through management's responsibilities in regards to the financial statements, the auditor's responsibilities in terms of the audit, what standards we follow. And then the next section at the bottom of page 1 talks about the opinion on the financial statements, which, as it states, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the governmental activities, business type activities, each major fund, and all aggregate remaining fund information. What that means in short term is the town got a clean opinion. It's an unmodified report, which is what the town strives for every year when its financial statements are being audited. And it breaks it apart by the different types of categories that we look at that the governing or government accounting standards set it up as. So we look at all of your governmental funds as a whole, we look at the utility, we look at, and then individual funds if they meet a certain threshold. But overall, the result is that we believe that they are presented fairly. At the top of page 2 then, I do want to point out this emphasis of matter paragraph. In 2019, there were some new accounting rules that went into effect that changed how certain numbers were reported in the financial statements of the town. And the big part of it moved all the taxes that are collected on behalf of the school and the county and tech college and Tri-Lake, all those funds used to be recorded and tracked in the general fund as they had known. But what they did in the new accounting rules, they wanted to separate that out from your general operations so you can truly see how much is just town operations versus what you're collecting on behalf of others. So when you do comparisons to some of these numbers, you will see some big differences because at year end, a lot of your cash on hand is your taxes collected that then get paid out in January to the county and to the school district. So as we go through the couple remaining other pages, I'll point out which of those numbers are different, but there is a reason why that's in there because obviously it's a big change compared to any other statements that you have looked at in the past. Turning then to page, sorry, my pages are sticking together. Page 7. This is the balance sheet for your governmental funds. So your general fund, your TIF, and your debt service, along with 1 or 2 other funds. And this is the snapshot as of 12/31, showing what your balances are, your cash, and any accounts payable and any receivables at this time. So you'll see the general fund at 12/31/2019 had cash investments of just over $3.2 million and tax receivable of 1.9, with total assets in the general fund of $5.3 million. There was just about $100,000 in accounts payable, and then the bigger number down below will be your deferred property taxes. Those are the amounts that were levied at the end of 2019 but are collected now in 2020. Those amounts will be turned into revenue in the coming year on the financial statement. At the end of the year, total fund balance in the general fund was $1,828,000. And as you can see, there's various categories here. You have your non-spendable, you have restricted, committed, assigned, and then unassigned. The non-spendable amounts are the amounts you've already relayed that cash out. So if you prepay for property insurance, that amount wouldn't necessarily be in expense until next year when the premium period is covered, but because you prepaid it, you don't have that money and that cash flow set aside for it. So that's what's in the non-spendable line. Your restricted line is going to be money that's restricted by outside parties. So, you know, if there's room tax money that has been turned over to the Tourism Commission, or if there's unspent bond proceeds, or just anything that's restricted by state legislation or some other outside party telling you that this is the only way you can spend this money. That's what gets shown on your restricted line. The committed line is some of your more carryover numbers that the board has set a policy, has set a resolution saying that these funds are going to be able to carry their money over from year to year to fund projects. The assigned line will be less formal policies and stuff. So in your budget, you're going to use fund balance to balance the budget the next year. That's what you might see on that line. Or if there's just more less formal tentative management plans for spending that money in the coming years, that's what you'll see on the assigned line. Your unassigned line of $1,265,000, that's the amount that's not been set aside for anything. So this is your money that you can use truly for cash flow or unanticipated expenditures or emergencies that come up in the next following year. One of the numbers we look at with that is, you know, how does that compare to total expenditures during the year? You know, if for some reason no money would ever come in for the first few months, would you have enough cash flow on hand to pay your bills without having to do short-term borrowing or different items like that? And so one of the ratios that we do from an industry perspective is we compare that to your total expenditures. And the ratio to your total expenditures is actually 25% of current year expenditures. So you're sitting pretty well. I think you have, you know, a couple months where it's sitting that if for some reason your revenues don't come in, that you could pay your bills without having to short-term borrow, or just knowing that, you know, you don't get all your settlement stuff until for your taxes until last half of the year, you're going to change your revenue. That's where it's important to have a decent number in that amount. And our usual industry expectations is anywhere from 15 to 25%. The town board itself has set a policy of 17% of budgeted expenditures. So you're meeting your requirement that you've internally set for yourself. Any questions on the general fund? Okay, the other fund here is your TIF. The big fund here shows that, you know, you've got some income coming in, and you were going to expect $1 million coming in for the next year, and you had received about $500,000 of that by the end of December. And you will see, in prior years, you'll see your total cash number, that 2018 column, would show that it was $8 million compared to $3 million this year. That's that effect of that change in that accounting rule I was mentioning, where in prior years, you showed all the cash is being paid out to the other municipalities, and this year it's on a different page in this report. It's actually on page 17 if you're interested in that number. Any questions on the balance sheet information? Otherwise, I will talk a little bit more about the general fund and how it did compare to budget. Okay, then you want to turn to page 11. So page 11 summarizes your general fund revenues and expenditures, and then compares it to how it did to your budget, showing the variance column, and also last year's, or 2018's actual numbers, just to give you some perspective as to how the year turned out, and how it was compared to prior years. Your total revenues in the general fund were $4.5 million, almost $4.6 million, and you exceeded budget in those revenues by $273,000. A significant portion you'll see is in that taxes line, which if you dive down deep into the details, that's a lot to do with increased room tax revenue that came in during the year. Other lines just were able to have some positive unanticipated grants or just interest income being up for the year. For expenditures, there was $5 million in total expenditures, and each expenditure line was below your final budget numbers. It was above your original budget numbers, but you came, once some revisions were made, you still came in under budget by over $1 million, primarily in the capital outlay line. And you'll see the debt that came in to cover some of those expenditures was $1.3 million. And overall, the net increase in the fund balance in the general fund was $322,000. Any questions with that? Okay, then we'll briefly talk about the water utility. If you could turn to page 14, this page will talk about the revenues and expenses for the water utility for 2019 compared to 2018. You'll see in 2019, revenues for customers held relatively flat, just over $1 million, while your operating expenses increased about $60,000. Now that will vary depending on how many changeouts or how many water main breaks or various things like that that you had to deal with during the year. But you still end up with operating income of $324,000. And then once you take into effect the debt payments, the interest payments, you ended up with just $263,000, and then the transfer to the town for the tax equivalent was $127,000. So overall, the water utility increased its net position by $160,000. And with that, then if you want to go more towards the back to page 51, we'll talk just about some of what we looked at in terms of internal control and just the recommendations we had for the town. Page 51 is our report on internal control. Under government auditing standards, we have to look at a few things, and as part of designing what tests you want to do in terms of your audit to determine if the numbers are materially correct or not, we do look at your internal controls, and if we see that there's something that we think could be improved upon or that there is a significant deficiency or material weakness, this letter points it out. Now, you'll see that we've had one material weakness and 3 significant deficiencies. These items are the same as in prior years. It happens a lot of times in small municipalities where there's just, only a handful of people handling the processes from day to day. And, overall in internal controls, you never want one person handling the transaction from start to finish. And sometimes in smaller municipalities, that's difficult to do. So our recommendations are just to always be aware of that and understand how important board review is in situations like that, and just ask some questions. And we know the town's been responsive in reviewing its processes every year to try and see if there are other ways to break things up and add in mitigating reviews and extra reviews to make sure to limit the possibility of any issues happening that would be caught. So there'll be the separation of duties overall, and then the 2 other findings are preparation of your annual report. That's on page 55. That finding is very common to municipalities in the state of Wisconsin. I have school district audit clients that have that finding. I have counties that have that finding. It's a cost-benefit thing where it's easier to hire your auditors to prepare the financial statements, just because of the sheer number of footnotes and other items that play into that. That finding, again, is a repeat from the prior years. And on page 56, the finding in regards to adjustments to financial records, this happens every once in a while when there's just some significant dollar amount entries that, from our perspective, are more material than maybe in years past, and so we're pointing it out there. We know the town's working towards reconciling accounts and making sure that and taking out some of those entries every year that we've made sometimes to clean up accounts. So I'm optimistic, and I know Amy and Wendy and everybody's working hard to eliminate that finding going forward. With that, I'll open it up to any questions.
Any questions from the board?
And it's always refreshing to get a clean audit. That's what I consider this. Good job, Amy, and your crew, Wendy and Jamie.
Very good. Thank you, Amber, for joining us.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Is it necessary to approve receiving audit in the motion?
Yes, I think in the past we have done
We have
motions
done
so
that,
that
yes.
we accept an
I
audit.
would have done that in other entities. Is there a motion to approve the audit as presented?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Again, I consider it to be a clean audit. I did spend a lot of time going through it. And again, I compliment our people in charge of finances for the job that they do. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item 11 is discussion and action, 2021 budget priorities and calendar discussion. We did receive a memorandum from our town administrator on the budget process with some recommended dates to continue our past practice, where we meet usually 3 times, but sometimes 4, and we do meet with department heads and go line item by line item in the 2021 budget. Jamie?
I would just ask if you haven't already added those dates to your calendar, if you would please, or let me know if those dates didn't work. We have released them also internally with staff, so we'll be planning on those dates to meet in this room. Just like last year, those meetings will be recorded for Channel 300. We did just confirm today with Ellers that our joint review board meeting will be Tuesday, September 1st at 3 p.m. So if you could also, in the memo, it was between 2 dates, but if you could hold Tuesday, September 1st at 3 p.m., we will go through where we are with our TID for this year with Ellers. Just as has been working on with our other entities, Ellers will join us through WebEx for that meeting too. I also just included in your packet a nice chart that's done by the Department of Revenue concerning our assessment numbers for this year, our tip numbers for this year, and our net new growth. And those are just for your review, but we'll go through them more in depth as we start the budget process.
Any questions for Jamie? Hearing none, move on to item 12. Discussion and possible action, approval of ordinance number 20, amendment to officers and employees, section 72-14, town employees and town boards, section 95-10, contacting town attorney, water utility director position. Report council, would like to address this, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So now that the management and operations of the water utility have transitioned with the town, we felt it prudent to now include the water utility superintendent position in Chapter 72 under officers and employees. As you see, under that Chapter 72 section, there are all of the town's employees with many of them having specific duties laid out for those positions, as well as how appointments occur and compensation is determined. So along with that, we've had internal conversations around updating the position title of water utility superintendent to the title of water utility director. So the language before you this evening does a couple things. First, it includes the position in Chapter 72 under 72-14, and you'll see, like we do with other employees, in that section, we do list how appointment occurs, compensation is determined, and then the duties of the position. And then the second thing that is done in the materials that you have before you is updating that position title to water utility director. It does that in 2 spots. Of course, the location that we're holding this into on 72.8, but then the water utility superintendent position was also included under 95-10. That's the section for contacting the town attorney, where it lists all the positions that are authorized to contact the town attorney. If we update the title, we would also want to include that update in 95-10, and so you'll see that language.
Okay, is there a motion to approve this ordinance?
I'll make a motion to approve with an amendment to the last page. It lists there et cetera, is not just the library. And I was wondering if we should have the chairperson for the Rome-Leicester Library Board of Trustees on
Okay, you're making a motion then with that
there.
addition.
Shall I make a motion with that addition?
Is there a second? The chair will second that motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Moving on to item 13. Discussion and action, approval of an additional ordinance number 20. And again, I remind our viewing public that the full ordinance number is added at a later date after the approval. So when you hear ordinance 20, ordinance 20, ordinance 20, they are all different, and later we fill in the rest of the ordinance number. This is addition to chapter 20, boards, commissions, and committees, section 20-10, alcohol beverage license review committee. Is there a motion to approve this ordinance?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just give just a bit of
Absolutely.
particularly around the creation of the membership section. I just want to make sure everybody's on the same page as to the membership of this committee. There is being proposed as a 5-member committee, that consisting of a town supervisor, the town administrator, the chief of police, or a representative from the town of Rome Police Department, a CDA resident member, and then a resident appointee of the Visit Rome, Wisconsin Board of Directors. Term for those positions, specifically for the town board appointee and the CDA appointee are 1 year. The remainder of those positions are, of course, the administrator is a position, they'll just be as appointed. And then the other piece to note is that the town clerk, treasurer, and the town attorney are noted not as members, voting members, but as ex officio members that serve as liaisons for those committee meetings. Of course, given the duties that they're doing, they'll likely be getting a large amount of input from the clerk, treasurer, and myself.
If we use the term resident member, that excludes current board members? Like in the CDA, there's 2 board members on the CDA.
Yes, it would exclude town board supervisors who are also members of the CDA, yes.
And there was some terminology used actually just in the financial report that I think actually applies well to this. The terminology was mitigating and extra review. That's really what this committee looks like. This committee serves as an advisory committee in large part to the board and makes recommendations to the board. But really, I thought that language that was used in that financial report was very applicable to this committee.
I would also just mention as a follow-up, not necessarily related to the ordinance language that you would be approving, but we also included in the packet the notice of interest in the Class B liquor license form. If the ordinance language is approved this evening, we will post this notice of interest also on the website. But if you knew of businesses or individuals that were interested, they would fill out this interest form. And these interest forms would be then given to this committee as they develop what the guidance would be for accepting applications when licenses become available.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item 14 is discussion and action. Approval of recommendation from the Plan Commission of a revised site plan of operation for the former Stagecoach Cafe building to change use from a restaurant to a licensed esthetician service, including sales of skincare items and possible apartment for use by owner lessee and lower level. Property is located at 1158 Snow Pass, also described as Lot 2 of CSM 5205, with property identification number of 030-01136-0597. Do I have a motion to approve this recommendation from the planning commission?
Also moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion second. We have material to review part of the meeting. Any questions or additional discussion?
If I heard, just to clarify, because there was a bit of discussion at the plan commission and a very specific recommendation, I want to make sure that you all have reviewed that and are aware of what that recommendation was. At each of your spots this evening, I have placed the draft plan commission minutes. And on the very last page, under number 12, is the plan commission's recommendation. And you'll see that just looking at the actual site plan and plan of operation application, what they're looking to do is a change use. And part of that change use also includes the use of the downstairs as a, or the lower level, I'm sorry, as a living quarters by Ms. Herman. And the plan commission did consider this item at its August 18, 2020 meeting. They did hold a public hearing, and then during the agenda item made a recommendation. And I will read it just for everybody's listening at home and everybody here to hear what the plan commission said. It was a motion by Iverson, second by Baker, to recommend to the town board the approval of the revised site plan of operation conditioned on the use of the lower level as living quarters being restricted to Brianna Herman only, and allow the use of the lower level as living quarters shall expire at such time that Brianna Herman is no longer operates a business at the 1158 Snow Pass location. Motion carried. In other words, there was a recognition that because this is not a permitted or conditional use listed in that sub-district of Rome Town Center, that the proposed, I call it accessory use, of that lower level as living quarters, the sunset, okay, with the, at any point that Ms. Herman was not operating the business there. And also, this motion and recommendation restricts the ability to, for example, sublease that area in the lower level to other individuals, and keeps it more consistent with the intended area in the local town center.
For this, I'm also, we approved that this evening. Was that also include an additional building inspection prior to occupancy?
Oh, of course.
Thank you. Any other questions? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item 15, discussion and approval. Approve Rome Snow Bandit's request to waive the rental fee for the Rome Town Center gazebo for their meeting on September 12, 2020, from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion with the same caveat that we did with others here that are doing group things, that Jamie sent them the information that we sent to the water skiers, that they could, that be posted or read to all of those that are attending.
I won't have there say, let's swim at the bottom.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carried. And item 16, the board may go into closed session under section 19.85, subsection 1, subsection G, conferring with legal counsel to the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved, potential legal action related to the Rome water utility shutdown due to nitrate levels. I would also indicate, if somebody makes this motion, that you would invite counsel council, the town administrator, and our water utility director, as well as also our town clerk to take minutes into that closed session.
I can handle taking the minutes in the closed session.
Okay, Amy, you don't have. All in favor, or did we get a motion?
So moved.
Second? I'll second it. We need to take a roll call. Bob?
All right, yes.
Johnson, yes?
Hogan, yes.
Iverson, yes.
Okay, we are now in closed session, and we anticipate coming out for additional action.
And like always, Mike see live and the camera sees live in this room.
I think the chairman should go in. Come on, Chadwick.
I'm pretty lucky.
The chair would entertain a motion to return to open session as authorized by Wisconsin statutes 19.85 subsection 2 to possibly take action from a closed session and continue with the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Chair seconds the motion. Any discussion? I believe it would be appropriate to state that there is no action that will be taken as a result of the closed session.
We need a roll call
We will need a roll call.
to go back into open, please.
Roll call. Mr. Teacher.
Iverson, yes.
Alvin, yes. Johnson, yes.
All right, yes.
Thank you. Again, I indicate that there will be no action by the town board as a result of the closed session. Moving on, dates and items for future agenda meetings. Item 18, next agenda items. Do any supervisors have anything they'd like additional to normal business for the next meeting?
I would have an item for the next board agenda concerning a contract for the a potential purchase addition to Derek Hughes recreational area.
Just curious, at this point in the meeting, where are we on the fire tower out here as far as getting that done?
Yep. So we would like to put in a epoxy coating, not just a paint, but epoxy coating. And so we've gotten a couple estimates on what that would be. It's been, contractors have just been very busy this season, but we are still hoping to have that epoxy paint.
Thank you.
Quick question, Jimmy, is that the same company that's putting the floor in the east?
No, that's, what's in the police building was done by Wisconsin Coating Specialists, which is like a type of epoxy, but it's slightly different.
Is the fire department getting their floor painted?
The fire department is, yes, going to have an epoxy-like type coating put in.
So it's not the same one?
I don't know that we could ask them if they, a vertical surface sometimes is a little bit different, but we could ask. Both of those also have a flecking to them, like that's added in, which the watercolor wouldn't need that.
Thank you. Item 19, our next meeting date and time, I believe is September 3rd at 5 o'clock, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, any other business for the good of the town? Hearing none, we are